Welcome to the 42nd episode of Talkin Toros. We're your unofficial Chicago Bulls podcast. You can find us on @Talkin Toros. That's with no G on Twitter. I'm your host, Myles Phelps. You can find me on Twitter @MPhelps11. With me, as always, Adam Brown. He's at Souvenir City. Luis Medina. He's at LCM 1986. First of all, welcome back to everybody. We're doing this new thing on video. I don't know if anybody's going to watch it. But if you're listening to the podcast and you want to see what we look like and our COVID hair and COVID beards, we've got.
If you have Zoom fatigue, be careful.
Yeah, dude.
Because this is seriously like a Zoom podcast right now.
It's a Zoom podcast, absolutely. It's been like almost 2 months since we've recorded. I feel like
120 days.
Been 120 days, so it's been quite a while. So we've got a lot to catch up on. We won't do too much. We'll probably keep this, about a medium-sized podcast, right, guys? I mean, we don't want to go overboard. We don't want to give
Lou
fatigue.
Game 2 in like an hour.
Got game 2. Lou's got Thursday Night Football, so we got some stuff to get to. But first of all, how is everybody doing? How is quarantine treating everybody? Is everybody staying safe? Let's just start there.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Yes, question mark. Yes, question mark is the answer to that one permanently.
I mean, this is crazy times, man. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but I think one of the biggest things that's changed is just how we digest sports. Like even since we recorded last, it's completely different. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the new changes in the Bulls front office. We haven't even talked about the new GM. Now there's a coaching search going underway, so we'll dig into that. I guess let's just start there. New front office. We literally haven't talked about this yet. So AB, I mean, Arturas, are you on board? I know that you were going back and forth a little bit once he got hired, but you're good now?
I was going to say, should the first order of business be what's the over under on mispronunciations throughout the podcast of Arturas Karnisovas's name?
I think Karnisovas, right?
I think it's Karnisovas. That's how I heard Woj say it. So, and I always go with Woj.
Oh man,
you don't call him Art.
Yeah,
Art.
Yeah, we're going to call him. I like that. I think Lou is correct.
Thank you, Lou. So how do we feel about Art?
I mean, the Denver Nuggets are in the Western Conference Finals. That made me feel good about Arturas.
That's a really interesting development that I don't think any of us saw coming.
No, not at all.
I mean, I'm excited just for the mere fact of like Jokic was a complete diamond in the rough find. And he's somebody that I don't think they were really expecting that they had to build their team around after they drafted Murray and they got Michael Porter Jr. too. They have a lot of we have a lot of really good, or they have a lot of really good young talent, and now it's all kind of stemmed from this diamond in the rough find that the Bulls have always wanted to be since like they found Pippen, but they really haven't found a guy, and that's not something that you want to hang your hat on as a fan. Like, all right, we want a coach too. But I feel like for a long time, we had a front office that didn't have the tools necessary to do that. And now I feel like we're closer to that. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I would say so. Like if you think about what Denver has done well, they've developed a thing out there without bottoming out, by making some smart trades, by scouting places where traditionally you don't get a ton of talent from. And I think that's something the Bulls need to do, and they've needed to do for quite some time, that they've hired someone who has experience in that kind of front office is a step in the right direction.
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, I think the Denver team you're looking at now, the fingerprints he has on it, I mean, we got the guy that ripped us off for Gary Harris. Gary Harris coming back for the Nuggets in this past series against the Clippers was a game changer. They had another perimeter defender to put out there. I mean, like you said, Myles, they found Jokic with the 43rd pick overall, second round pick Jokic. They turned him into a star. Remember last summer when they extended Jamal Murray after one really good playoffs and people were like, is Gary Harris really a max rookie extension? Jamal Murray, not Gary Harris.
Yeah.
But Jamal Murray, is he really a max rookie extension guy? Hell yeah, he is. That dude put up 50 twice in the first round series, and he put up 40 in a game 7 and was absolutely unbelievable. So yeah. Also, Mike Malone. That's another thing. Like, we're about to start talking about a coaching hire for the Bulls, and Carnisvas had to Art. Sorry, I keep saying it. Art had to pick this guy, and I think Mike Malone has done well for himself in the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I again, not to just keep saying the same points over again, but just the mere fact that we have the tools available to make a difference versus like faking our way through it, and it just it's a breath of fresh air. Like anything is possible now. Like we're gonna get to this too, but like the Bulls are at a point right now where it's like, do you continue to add or do you just blow it up and start from scratch? And I think if you had asked me that question before, obviously Art had gotten hired, the answer would be very, very obvious. Now, I could be persuaded in either ways. And so let's hold off on that conversation for a minute though. So Adam brought up head coach. There's a lot of names out there. Some older ones. You got D'Antoni's on the market. You got some newer ones, some fresh faces. So what's the best direction? Is it hiring somebody like D'Antoni, or is it going the opposite way? And I don't mean D'Antoni. I just mean somebody like that type of caliber coach, or is it somebody that like Kenny Atkinson that's had a mild run of success, but that likes to take on newer people, or is it somebody that is just a no name?
Based on how Art has handled roughly everything related to the position of head coach since he's been hired, I just want to say that I'm ready to trust him in whatever he decides to do with the job, because Boylan got fired, and for the first time in a long time, it wasn't some beat report. It wasn't KC. It wasn't even Woj or any of the it wasn't Mark Stein. The Bulls broke their firing of Jim Boylan. Like, they put out a tweet, there was a press release, there was a statement from ownership, there was a statement from PAX, there was a statement from AK, there was a rebuke, shall we say, from Jim Boylan. And like, the way he handled that process, we didn't know what was going on a lot of the time, but I'm happy with how it ended. And there has been only, I would say, like a half dozen names mentioned for the Bulls job, and there's not been one where I'm like, ew. I'm cool with whoever he decides to go with.
Yeah, there's no cringeworthy name that's been associated with the Bulls job, and you got to take that considering where the Bulls have come from. The last time they did a coaching search was the Hoiberg thing, and that we all knew that was a
Was
sham
that
of a
really
coach.
a search?
Yeah, we all knew it was a sham. We all knew that their nationwide search started and ended in Ames, Iowa. That ain't a nationwide search to me.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, was it a nationwide search or was it just a one-way ticket to Ames, Iowa?
It was a round trip because they had to bring Hoiberg
Round
back.
trip, yeah, you got to bring him back.
But like seriously, but even before that, it was the D'Antoni Thibodeau search, which was like the only reason they landed on Tibbs was because Jerry got tight at the end with the money and didn't want to, because he was already paying for Vinny to go away. He didn't want to have to fork over money for D'Antoni. That's how they ended up with Tibbs. And that ended up being a good hire, but the process was highly questionable. This process to this point has been good, and I love that it's taking place behind the scenes for the most part because you like this world, as much as I love social and sharing, so we don't have to know everything that's going on. So like this is nice. And I also like a little mystery. I like a little hard to get.
Now, that said, if you're asking me to pick between basically first time hire or a guy just being elevated from an assistant into a head coaching role, or someone that's coached in the league and has a proven track record, it's weird because when this first started, I wanted to have someone like Kenny Atkinson. So that's a guy that's been in the league. I think I really do want to let him hire like someone that he sees is ready to make the leap, because I don't know if this team is going to compete right away. And if it doesn't, I want to have the ability to be like, all right, 2 or 3 years in, we get a guy that maybe can change the culture, but they still have room to bring another coach in if it ultimately doesn't work out.
I like
Yeah,
the idea of a growth guy. Someone this
yeah,
team and this organization can grow with. And if it doesn't work, it's someone you can, move away from if necessary. I don't want to think about that right now, but like I just like the idea of it's someone, a new hire, fresh set of eyes with look, there's gonna be some growing pains. Someone that I can be okay with, all right, this guy is going through growing pains, this team, organization going through it. We all can go through this together. So just like keep everyone kind of on the same page.
The floor for this hire is Dale's fame.
Oof.
That's the floor.
Raise the floor a little?
That's the floor. Like just a guy that if it doesn't work out, that's fine. Can work with the
Floor is
existing.
How about
The
the floor
floor
being
is low, but I'm hoping that he finds someone that has taken the elevator up a couple floors and is ready to make the leap forward. Like a young guy that's been on a staff with demonstrated success. If they get someone that's coached for Spoelstra, I don't mind the. I know Brett Brown is not a fan of or a favorite of anyone around here, but like the Sixers coaching staff, Ime Udoka, like that's another name. Also, the Nuggets. If Wes Unseld Jr. wants to come over and coach the Bulls, that sounds great to me. Like if those guys are coming in here as first time head coaches, I'm cool with that. Yeah. I don't think I don't know if a Billy Donovan or a Mike D'Antoni is going to work here. I think Kenny Atkinson's the only guy that's had experience that made sense to me from the outset.
See, I like the idea of Donovan. Just like knowing what he's been through to take that roster, that OKC roster to the playoffs was pretty impressive. And that like, this is hindsight speaking, but like knowing what we know now about Russell Wilson, that like that organization didn't totally
Westbrook. I know what I know about Russell Wilson, but
yeah, wrong sport, Lou.
That's okay.
Yeah, look, Russell Westbrook, that they didn't kind of implode when he was on the court, like that's impressive. Like that probably should have ended his coaching career. Like it would be nice. I'm not totally sold on Donovan, but I think a Donovan hire would bring some credibility to a franchise that hasn't had much of it lately. And that'd be nice.
And Donovan would be an interesting hire because he's had success at both levels, which is not something that you could say for a lot of people. And so if you're trying to rebuild culture, especially if you're going to go younger, and even the team now is so young, like outside of Otto and maybe Sato, like there's a lot of guys that are just younger dudes that maybe they would appreciate a newer voice from a college type of coach that isn't going to coach like a college type of coach, but that knows the right things to say. So maybe that's the direction. Maybe that is a good hire, especially for short term and long term. Maybe that fills both the buckets. But I think going back to what AB said, it is a breath of fresh air because we are not hoping for them to do the opposite of what we know they will. Like if this was Garpax, they would have somebody on their radar and we would already be going like, oh, come on, like just don't do that. We don't have that anymore. Like we have a sense of optimism and it brings me back to kind of like the early Theo and Jed days of like, hey, we know they might suck for a little bit, but we're going to give them the amount of rope that they deserve and we'll see what happens. If it doesn't work out, then like, yeah, we'll start from square one. But I'm more optimistic now, as I think you guys are too. Just like whoever they hire, there was a reason for it. It's probably a pretty good reason, and we'll see what happens.
So do we need to get do we need to print Hope t-shirts with his face on them, like the profile picture,
Sure. I'm down. Talkin Toros will sell those. No problem. That's great. So, the question that comes kind of in conjunction with that is, and this is AB's question, I can't take credit for this. So you can only do one for next year. So you're either standing pat as far as like where the team stands for next year, or do you completely blow it up and start over? Where do you guys land?
I feel as if standing pat now would eventually lead to blowing it up by like the All-Star break. I'm not sure blowing it up now gets you the highest return on investment for some of your guys. I feel like so much has to shake out with like the playoffs and the draft and some of the cap ramifications that are coming down the line. I just think it would be hard to blow it up right now. I'm not opposed to it. I just think it would be more difficult than waiting it out and then blowing it up.
I agree with Lou. I mean, how many times have they moved the draft date? We don't even know when it's going to happen, let alone like what the salary cap implications are. Because if you're going to trade picks, how much is that slot worth? Like, Lou's right. I probably posed the question poorly. I guess by full scale blow up, I meant like, are you going to trade a star player? Because when Lou said some of these guys are at their lowest value, like if you trade Lauri Markkanen right now, you're an idiot. You're not going to get much for him, and he might blow up in your face later. They're not going to trade a guy like Carter. They're definitely not going to trade a guy like Kobe White. It's basically, are you ready to move on from Zach LaVine?
Yes, I think that's where the question lies. Is like, are you as a GM, new president, basketball operations for the Bulls? Are you taking on what the regime did before and building around Zach?
Yep.
And if you are, do you know how to do that? Like, do we have the right pieces already? And I think that's what it comes down to is everything kind of revolves around that one piece. And this is just how NBA franchises are built. Sometimes you can build around scheme, but it's far less common. You have to find the one guy, and then you're going to find the number 2 guy, the 3 guy, and try to build around that core. And right now, the Bulls, it feels like they're so close. Like if with the right sort of mentorship and coaching, like maybe they get there. Like maybe Larry can turn it around. Maybe Zach can be like the go-to guy. Maybe they can find that glue person that has to come in. But to lose point, like if you can't do that, if you found that there isn't a way to do that, then you are 1000% tanking this next year. Like no doubt, because like what else do you have to do other than like root for individual performers to increase their value so then you can start to get draft picks. So, I mean, it's a tough position that they're in right now, to be honest with you. There's not a lot of, there's talent, but like,
they have
what
some
do you
of
do
like
with that
the
talent?
best 4th and 5th starters in the league, basically. Like,
Yeah.
Zach could be a 3 guy on a really good team. He could be your 3rd option. But like Otto Porter would be a great piece for a team like Dallas, who needs a spot up shooter to put around Luka and KP. Like those are the type of pieces that you can move. Satoransky could have some trade value with how cheap his contract is. The fact that the 3rd year is non-guaranteed, especially with teams not knowing the financial implications, you could sell him for a really nice piece. I bet you could get a 1st round pick, a late 1st round pick for Thomas Satoransky.
I mean, if Campaign is making playoff appearances, then like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's where the league is at right now.
That name hit me in the face like a fish. It's like Myles threw like a 20-pound fish and it hit me right in the fucking head.
I forgot the Bubble Suns.
I know the Bubble Suns, like Campaign was really good for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Oh,
he's gonna get like a 5-year extension on his like NBA life because of that.
I hope he does. I mean, God bless him. I mean, it's obviously still in there. And I forget who brought it up too. Is I think we were watching one of the 1st round playoff games, and either one of you two or maybe Eli from Bleacher Nation Bulls was saying like the speed of play and the amount of talent on the court is just different. It's like you're watching a different league. So like that's got to be taken into consideration too. Like could this team, as it's constructed right now, with better coaching, be an 8 seed? Like yeah, probably, but like they're not going to do anything with that. So
could they ever host a 1st round playoff series?
Right. I don't think so. Not how they're built now, right?
Not currently constructed,
no.
So maybe that's your answer. Maybe it's trying to see, first of all, what you do with Zach, trying to see if you can get some of these other guys to build up their trade value and then go from there. Or you just kind of let the chips run. If you make the playoffs, great. And now you know what you really have. And so you can go into the next off season with the real plan. So basically what it is like this next season could be a punt season. It might not be a rebuild. It might not be contending, but it might be a punt because that's the option.
If a team at the deadline, if the Bulls are gravitating or like just levitating in like 7, 8, 9, and a team is really like Zach LaVine could seriously be the piece that puts us over a top for a title. I don't know who that team is, and good luck to those guys. But like if you can find that team, you move him off the team. But yeah, I think this year it's really just a roll the dice, see what you have, see if the coach you hire and bring in can coach them up. But yeah, I don't think the Bulls have the guy that they're ready to build around yet. I just don't think he's on the roster.
It almost felt like this. Go ahead, Lou.
What if it's the Clippers?
Oh my God. If they're ready to make a panic trade, I'm like, so you have to call Sam Presti because he owns half of your organization. So he's like your broker.
Right. Seriously, he is. Yeah, it just real quick, and then we'll close up and go to around the NBA. It almost felt like the Zach LaVine and everything that happened with Jimmy Butler was just trying to force it. Like they were like, "Hey, this guy was a top draft pick. He's athletic. He's coming back off a knee surgery. Maybe we got it. Maybe we can get that."
He won the dunk contest twice.
Right. That's what it came down to. I mean, MJ won the dunk tournament, so maybe we got the next MJ. So I don't know.
You know what? I think it's weird that after this past season, would you arguably say that value-wise, because of what you're paying Zach and what you're about to be able to do with Chris Dunn and Larry Markkinen, that Chris Dunn is the most valuable piece from that trade?
No, I think you can say that because
he was almost second team all defense. He was almost one of the 11 best defenders in the league this year.
I understand. I bet his net is net positive, but in terms of the Bulls as a squad, I'm sure that the numbers would point to LaVine having a much more weighted contribution than Chris Dunn.
$19.5 million, though.
Sure, no doubt. And if you're just talking about value, then like maybe. But in terms of like, is he the most valuable out of that deal? I don't know if I could say that.
It sucks that Laurie might be the last on that list right now.
Yeah, Jesus, man. What a fall from grace. Well, let's keep this lighter, guys. The Bulls are on the right path. We all seem to be pretty excited about that. And I think the conclusion of this is that whatever the front office now decides for the Chicago Bulls, we'll be happy with. And when is the last time that we could say that?
And also,
that's exciting.
1997.
Yeah.
Yeah.
98, yeah, pretty much.
Seriously.
You can dub in some music here because we didn't actually get a proper like celebration to Jim Boylan being fired. So like, cheers, guys.
Cheers. You know what? Cheers to everybody, to Boylan. You had a good run.
Yeah, you weren't the right guy for the job, Jimmy. You were sounds like an asshole too. So,
have fun
trails.
golfing.
Yeah, happy trails.
Seriously.
I don't want to that Varsity Blues toast like to Kilmer. Not Kilmer.
That is perfect, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Work on that handicap, Jim. All right, let's talk about the NBA. So, and by handicap, I mean golf handicap. I wasn't talking about some disability that he had. I just wanted to make that clear in case that got lost in translation.
Aggregators don't aggregate that.
Yeah, Jesus. All right, so the NBA has been fun in the bubble, I think. And I know Adam put this question last, but I think we should talk about this first. I mean, what have you guys thought about just this new tournament style? Lou, I mean, you've watched quite a bit of games. I mean, do you feel like it's lost any sort of its
entertaining as heck, man?
Yeah.
They can't do this every year for the NBA playoffs. However, what they can do, and what this has shown me, is that they can totally pull off that midseason tournament that has been bantied about and have something in the middle of the year at a neutral site that kind of keeps our interest in what's an 82 game season that sometimes you kind of lose interest halfway. I can totally see a tournament for example, even if this is late season, a tournament for like the last seed, that's fun.
I've always thought the interesting as hell tournament is a good idea. 7, 8, 9, and 10 battling for 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Like play-ins, that's fine. I thought the seeding games were great. I think that the shooter's gym has definitely been evident. Like there are guys that are not, Jamal Murray being one of them, just not. Donovan Mitchell in the first round looked like fucking Ray Allen from 3. It was ridiculous. But I think that the environment's been great. Like it's, as far as the production value on TV, I haven't watched a ton of baseball, but I can tell the difference when there's no fans in a baseball stadium because of how much crowd shots normally take up in a production value of a baseball game.
And it just echoes more.
Yeah, it does. And in a small hotel arena that they're in that seats whatever, like 3,500 people. And it's just now, just recently, the families that Russ wanted to MF while he was having a decent game and they were down. But like it's been a really nice setting. I think that it really hasn't detracted from the play at all. The fake crowd noise has been great. I think that the announcers, like the PA guys, they're making evident who's the home and away teams. Like it really has been hardly different to watch, hardly different noticeably that we're in a fucking pandemic.
Yeah, it's almost like they instead of trying to force what would be original down our throat, they have created some newer things that have added to the value of the production. Things like the Michelob Ultra virtual fan seats. Like that is so cool. Like that's such a cool idea. Like having the music pumped in and the huge back screens of it, like that all adds to the production value and not something that we would get if it was just a normal, NBA playoff game. And so I've really just appreciated that they didn't try to put a square peg in a round hole. They thought differently outside of the box. Like, how do we make this work? What's going to be best for the consumer? Whereas I feel like baseball, they kind of went in the opposite direction. Like football too. Like, how do we get fans in the seats? Well, we'll put cardboard out there and we'll figure it out. It'll look like people were there. We'll pump in crowd noise. And like, that's fine. There's not a lot that baseball can do outside of that versus, maybe playing in a bubble themselves. So
especially with 30,000 seats.
Right. And I've just really appreciated the NBA's response, even to things like social justice. And this is an important time in all of our lives. Things are changing and the NBA seems to be on top of it. And you can believe, WNBA as well. And so you can believe whatever you'd like to believe. But I feel like, equality and everybody having the same sorts of opportunities to live a peaceful and free life is important. no matter what side of the aisle you're on. And I think the NBA has recognized that. And I've just personally just really have appreciated that part of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's refreshing that a big corporation, and like they have not really middled. They've been pretty straightforward with what their message has been, and really across the board, it's good to see people on the same page and working for a positive cause.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
the
if that's
bubble
what you
strike.
want for the bubble, then God bless it. The bubble is good.
Yep.
And I think the way that they did the stoppage and then talked it out and figured out how they were going to go forward, that went smoothly. It was everybody in one place trying to come to a consensus, and they hashed it out the best they could.
Yeah, I mean
Every
that's
other sport that had a stoppage, whether it was football players, protesting, playing, having practice, or baseball play, like MLB and the NFL did not have any of those bases covered at all. Meanwhile, basketball folks are talking it out like adults. And I'm just like, oh, this is what competence looks like.
yeah. I mean that's exactly what it is. It's just competence and people being willing to take risks. So yeah, that's definitely been fun.
Not to mention 0 positive tests.
That's the most important part. And what did we talk about before this started is that if they can do it safely for the players and the referees and coaching staff, then great. If not, shut it down. And they've lived up to their side of the bargain. And I think that, again, it's just a testament to how they run things. And Adam Silver, it starts with him. So,
and they've put a hard line down, whether you're Daniel House or Lou Williams. They will not tolerate whatever you're going to do that's going to compromise what they have going on.
I want to make chicken.
Yep, exactly right. So let's get through some. Oh, you guys, you said something funny, and I think I missed it. So that'll be fun to look back on. But let's talk about let's talk about the first round here. So I think there's a lot of really really interesting games in the first round.
Everybody pick a series and go on it for like a couple of minutes.
Okay, you go first, AB.
All right, I have to take Utah Denver because that series was fucking unbelievable. 7 games. We were a Mike Conley 3 away from, and I wish I could remember the guy's name on Denver that botched it at Denver could have literally ran the clock out, and Mike Conley missed a 3 by inches that could have sent them to the second round, and the Clippers might still be in the tournament. What's that?
Was it Porter who goofed?
No, it was a guy who I swear has the name of an NFL wide receiver, and I can't think of who it is. It's a guy on Utah. Or I'm sorry, on Denver. Anyway, that was a great series. I mean, you had Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray both going for 50 in game 1. Mitchell and the Jazz looking completely unbeatable. Like that pick and roll. Jokic, for as good as he looked at the end of that series and in this past Clippers series, he looked like ass when he was the guy that was asked to defend Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert on the pick and roll. They were abusing him for 4 games. It was really ugly until the last part of that series where Denver and Jamal Murray just said, we are not losing this. Jeremy Grant's been great for them. Like the Nuggets have showed out, and for them to be the only team to come back 3-1 twice and do it in the same playoffs is nuts.
And shout out to Mike Malone for making those adjustments. Like I didn't know if he had that in him. It was, I mean, of all the things we're going to see in playoff basketball, and we've talked about how watching the Bulls and watching playoff basketball is like watching 2 different sports. Watching coaching adjustments take place in real time is like mind blowing. Like I didn't know that this was possible.
Let me give you a counterpoint. Quit going down 3-1.
Hey man, for entertainment value, I can't agree with that, but I know what you're saying. Like they in this next series against the Lakers, if they go down, yeah. And the Lakers have lost game 1 of each of their last 2 series, but then they've come back and steamrolled in 5.
That's why I feel like it's sometimes it's a detriment to teams. It's got to be the right team that feels like they can come back, because I feel like the Cubs are in this situation now where like they could always come back no matter what. 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th, they could put it back together, but now they just don't have it anymore. But they might expect it, and I feel like the same thing can happen in basketball. But
dude, you just have to have the building blocks of the nobody believes in us story.
Yeah, I mean,
as long as you can sell that to the team.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But you gotta have guys who can act on it.
That's true. That's the thing, is that like, yeah, you can be pissed off, but like, just prepare better. Just don't go down.
Especially against the Clippers. I couldn't believe it in that second round. What was your guys' first round series though? You have Houston, OKC to choose from, the Bucks, which that was weird in the first round.
I know mine. Lou, do you want to go?
I don't have a first round series.
Here, I'll go.
I know what Myles is.
But like,
yeah, I mean, it's I mean, to me, it's obvious. It's Rockets OKC.
Oh, really?
I
I thought
mean,
you were going to go
yeah.
with Dame in Portland.
Well, I mean that was an interesting one, but I think in terms of like a series and how it played out and
Oh, yeah.
storylines, I feel like that is way better. Just like who saw that coming? I remember I made a bet before this previous season, right when Chris Paul got traded, and one of my buddies is from OKC, and we were drunk at a bar somewhere playing pool, and I started talking shit about the Thunder and how bad they were going to be this upcoming season. As I think like a lot of people thought that like there was no way that anybody had this type of success written down once CP3 was over there. We didn't even know CP3 was going to stay in OKC. So we made this bet, and I get this text when the Thunder were, I think, tied. That it was maybe like 1-1. I don't remember what the series was at, but it was still close. And he's like, "Hey, do you want to go double or nothing on the series bet for the Thunder making the playoffs?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. Like, I want to stay as far away from the Thunder team as I possibly can because I have no idea. Like, they might take down the Rockets. The Rockets are the most unpredictable basketball team I've ever watched in the playoffs in my entire life. And just to see how that would played out, and they almost did it. Like, they almost took down the Rockets, and it would have been insane. It would have been so awesome to see James Harden go down once again, and obviously he did later on, but that was to LeBron. It wasn't to like old ass CP3.
Can you imagine the State Farm commercial that would have come of the fucking Thunder actually having won that series?
Man,
that was a wild series.
It's just crazy because I love the series where you didn't see that coming. Like I looked at that series and like, yeah, it was a 4-5 seed, but I looked at that series as like, well, Thunder are getting blown out. Like it just didn't. They're a good team. They're fun to watch in the regular season. I love SGA. I love Chris Paul. I love Steven Adams. Like I love the team. I like Billy Donovan, but it just didn't match up when you have Harden and Westbrook on the other side.
I don't know. My thing is like when you said the betting odds and everything, I was like, well, you're essentially betting that you're confident that Russ won't take stupid, overconfident threes in the fourth quarter of games for the Rockets and not give the ball to James Harden.
Yeah,
he did that. That's why they lost games 5 and 6.
Yep. Lou, did you have one that you want to talk about?
Not in the first round. That second round series though, with the Bucks and Heat, I think that was like the most interesting series to me because
that's a series of the playoffs.
The Bucks got.
I disagree.
Sorry, go ahead, Lou.
Drama came out after that, so it was like not only you get punched in the mouth, not only you get eliminated. Now, like Giannis is unfollowing people and meeting with ownership and front office types behind the scenes, and it's just basketball drama at its purest.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I know AB didn't like it just because you don't get
the series itself. I thought was a good bet. Like the Heat actually showing out and being like, yes, we are versatile enough, and if we build a wall for Antetokounmpo, you can't beat us.
But as a fan perspective, you didn't like it because you want to see Giannis in the finals, which I totally get.
Kind of.
You want to see Giannis and LeBron go head to head. Like that's what it is.
The injury hurt too. Like once he got hurt in Game 3, you're like, this series. Like fuck, we're not going to see how it's truly going to play out.
I don't think the Heat win if he's not hurt. Maybe they do. Maybe their defensive schemes are as good as we think they are. But like a hurt Giannis is huge because he is 50% of what they do as a squad. Everything revolves around him. So I mean, I don't know. It's hard. We obviously don't know that answer, but I thought that was probably one of the more interesting series that I've ever been a part, or not been a part of, but I've ever seen, just because of how good that team was and how dominant that one player was. Mm-hmm. Another collapse that we should probably talk about while we're on the subject is the Clippers.
Real quick.
So
one last first round series. Let's give a shout out to the Mavs and the Clippers because that series was also very, very good until Porzingis got hurt. Luka's shot with 3.4 seconds left, a 3 to win it in Game 4 was absolutely nuts. That was an awesome game. Like he dragged that team to 2 wins in a series against a team that most people thought was going to win the title.
Yep, and they still lost. So let's move on to Clippers. No, I'm just joking. No, it was a fun series. It was fun to see playoff Luka. I think you're going to see quite a bit more of him.
Yeah, a lot of playoff Luka in the future.
No doubt. And for those that don't know, AB is our resident Luka crush expert. Evangelist. That's a good word. So he's even.
Yeah.
If if you're not watching, he's got the Lucas shirt on and everything, so he's all in. Okay, so the Clippers, guys, what the fuck happened?
They Clippers did up, man.
Doc is going to get so much of it. Doc and Paul George are going to be the ones that bear the brunt of it. I actually think that there is a chance that Doc's job is even in jeopardy.
I don't. I mean, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I've heard even George or Paul George trade rumors. I almost said George Hill. Paul George trade rumors like already, and it's just funny because if you look back at the history of how this team was formed,
I know
they went to Kawhi, and Kawhi said, "I want Paul George," and so they gave up fucking everything for Paul George, as we all know. And then this is the output. You are in a game which you're eliminated. Kawhi, Paul George. I think AB brought it up that Doc Rivers didn't have a good game. Lou Williams didn't have a good game. No one showed up. And the entire year, what did we hear about before the pandemic started? Was that the Clippers will be able to turn it on whenever they want to, just like those LeBron's teams used to be able to do with the Heat. They're not that. They're not that. So
score on the Clippers. That was the whole thing this year. Like, oh, they might struggle on offense because they got to fill each other out. With all these new pieces. But who's going to score with modern day Jordan and Pippen on the court? It turns out it was Denver who could score on them.
Yeah, and I mean, like, they look scared in the third and fourth quarters of Game 7. I hate to say it, everybody but Kawhi. For Kawhi, it just wasn't working. He had the shot attempts. He was getting to the rim, and it just wasn't going. I think it was tired. Like they're playing every other day in the bubble. There is only one day off, and then you are coming back in whether you played overtime or not. So
think about. I mean, Kawhi just went to a finals. I know LeBron does it all the time, but we hold like LeBron should be in a different, planet category because he's a freak. But Kawhi just won a very grueling finals not that long ago
with load management.
Correct. And so, like, maybe that's just caught up to him. But it goes back to our point, like, where the fuck were you, Paul George? Like, what do you do? Like, why? You can't have all these endorsements and say that you're, a top 10 player in the league.
Playoff
when you do this in the playoffs. Like, you've been to the playoffs before. You've been there with the Thunder. You've been there with the Pacers. You know what it feels like. So there's no excuse here. If you want to be a top tier person and you want to go to the Hall of Fame someday, this is where you have to do it. And he didn't. And I'm telling you, his legacy is going to take a hit for that.
Tarnished. It's tarnished until further notice.
But let's talk about a legacy that is on the fucking rise. I'm dropping a lot of F-bombs today. Jimmy Butler. As AB has correctly pointed out, I think everybody in the United States and around the world just owes this team and that individual just like a real heartfelt apology.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jimmy, because I was ready to trade him when they actually made the trade. And I didn't agree with giving them the draft pick as well as Jimmy and only getting the Timberwolves pick in return. But like, I ripped on him for the way he left Minnesota. I ripped on him for just essentially giving up. What did I say? He was going for the platinum pussy title in Miami when he said, I'm leaving Philadelphia to go to Miami. I mean, I definitely ripped him for all the wrong reasons. This guy wants nothing more than everything that we loud Kawhi for, like the direct dedication and putting in the work and all that. He does it. He's not as talented as Kawhi Leonard. He doesn't have the hand size of Kawhi Leonard, but he has the same amount of work ethic. And there are only certain types of players that can play with Jimmy. And Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, those guys are guys that can play with Jimmy because when he gives them shit, Goran Dragic. Have you guys ever heard the story of Dragic he was on the Heat. He was on Phoenix when Goran Dragic was on Phoenix before they traded him to Miami. And when Shaq got there, every time he got to a new team, he had a habit of just giving everybody on the team shit so that everybody knew who was king. Goran Dragic, of all people, was the only guy to stand up to him and be like, I don't care how big you are. Don't fuck with me. So Goran Dragic can definitely play with Jimmy Butler if he has that attitude towards Shaq.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good segue to the point I was going to make, which is that Jimmy had a really, really good culture under Thibodeau for what fit him as an individual. Try hard, you play defense, you grab boards, you do whatever you have to take because he didn't get on the court his first year. And so he had to fight his way into it. Obviously, everybody knows his life story now and just having to scratch and claw. And I think what you saw in both Minnesota and this is, from a 6,000 foot view, this is just me making assumptions, but what you saw in Minnesota and Philly was teams and players and individuals that were work hard but have had things handed to them and that have expected a certain amount of stardom. And Jimmy didn't put up with that shit. He played with Derrick Rose, who never took anything for granted. He played with Taj and Noah and all these different guys that had success in the playoffs and were one round away from maybe even making it to a finals or an Eastern Conference, a couple of times. And he never really had that same sort of like environment until he got to the Heat. And the Heat is all about everybody's equal. You're going to put in the work. You're going to do running drills, everybody. And the practices are going to be as hard as the games.
There's the reason Deion Waiters didn't work there.
Exactly. That's the guy I was thinking about, just for the conditioning drills. And it's everything has just worked out absolutely perfect for him. And I feel like there's no better franchise for him. I can't think of a better franchise that he's going to be the rest of his career. Like, I think he will go down as maybe one of the better free agent signings outside of like, maybe Shaq, or he was traded, I think. But anyway, my point is that it was just
LeBron
a huge get.
is their best
LeBron,
friend.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yes. But yeah, it's just right place, right time, and they've just been so much fun to watch.
Think about everything that like they got out from underneath Justice Winslow's contract so that they could get Iggy, give him a team-friendly extension, and also get Jay Crowder, who guarded fucking Giannis pretty well in that series that they just played. Like, they have managed it beautifully. Goran Dragic is on it. Like, all we heard about last summer was Goran Dragic is expiring is what they're going to use to trade for Chris Paul. Well, that never happened, and it sure worked out for the Heat.
Yeah. And maybe it's the testament to them. Like, maybe CP3 isn't the right, personality fit for that squad. Whatever they're doing down there in terms of assessing personnel, it's working for them. They're not going to go after every single person. Like, when they got Tyler Hero, everybody was like, okay, that's a pretty good pick. Like, looking back on it, that's a perfect. This guy does not give a shit what you say about him, and he's going to try his hardest. He does not care. They give him the ball every chance they get around the 3-point line. He's entrusted, and it goes to an organizational standpoint. And bringing it back to the Bulls, it frustrates me because when we went through our rebuild after Rose and everything broke up with that core, it felt like we just threw up our hands. We're like, all right, we got to start over. The Heat also were in the doldrums of not doing so well, but they still had Dwayne Wade. They could sell tickets, and they had a plan. They knew what they were going to do moving forward. And I used to hate the Heat organization. I don't like Miami fans, but credit where credit is due. These guys are playing, and I think that they have a very, very good chance of getting to the finals.
Next podcast, I will wear the Heat track jacket that I bought because I like the Heat so much now.
So first of all, I can't believe you fucking bought that.
Okay, no, we gotta stop this. We gotta stop this right now because the Heat sent Dwayne Wade to Chicago.
Yes,
to make $4 billion to fucking recruit Jimmy Butler to the Heat. How did we have this conversation without pointing that out?
Yeah, it's the prove me wrong meme.
No, it definitely happened. It happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, Lou. I didn't even think about that.
He says, like, tweet something nice about the Bulls. And, like, I swear to God, I think that's part of his contract. That, like, once in a while, Dwayne, like, once every 6 months, you have to say something nice about the Bulls.
I'm just going to interrupt here real quick and drop a real quick fuck Dwayne Wade, and we can move on.
Agreed.
But, yeah, AB, I can't believe you brought that track jacket.
Where
are you going to wear that?
And I wore
just around? You're just going to wear it around, like, north side of Chicago? Like, yep, got a Heat jacket.
Myles, do you know how many times I've left my house in the last 6 months? I wore it yesterday during game 1.
Pandemic times, I guess. All right. That's fair. All right, let's wrap it up here. All NBA teams were announced. I don't want to go through them all, in detail, but was there any surprises that you guys saw?
Yeah, that fucking Russell Westbrook made it.
Yeah.
He was good for 5 weeks. He was really good for 5 weeks.
13. Least deserving dude.
I feel like third team's fair.
But like Chris Middleton didn't make the team, and it's because they allowed you to vote for both certain players at guard and forward. Like Ben Simmons was eligible at guard and forward. LeBron was eligible at guard and forward this year.
But All NBA is just a stat.
No, it's two guards, 2 forwards, and 1 center.
No, I'm saying in terms of how they create this, it's so Russell Westbrook is going to have better, guard stats than Chris Middleton was because he's just
he got more votes in terms of first, second, and third place votes. It's a point-based system for how you get selected for the teams.
But that's my point is that like the voting, like people are going to vote more for Russell Westbrook because of his involvement in the team versus Middleton, who is less involved.
Okay.
Still involved, like still a core. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm just saying like that's how the all NBA teams are going to work.
I suppose.
Like a popularity contest.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's a popularity contest. Was there any other ones that you guys that stood out?
Well, I mean, I agree with it. Embiid didn't make it. If you're
Fuck Embiid.
If you're one of the best players in the league, how are you not on the team as opposed to what was it? Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis made first team center, which I don't know if he played even 50% of his minutes as their center this year. It's their closing lineup. He's the center in the fourth quarter, but like he mostly played forward this year. Dwight and
This is why like how can you have all NBA teams that are constructed like this when the Rockets are playing PJ at center?
Or
like
Russ
80% of the time.
Sometimes.
It's why I believe in positionless basketball.
Yeah, it should be.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
It should be the best 15 players.
It's like it's almost like there's like a wink wink of like, all right, we're going to vote for centers, we're going to vote for forwards. You guys really know who the centers of the league are. You guys really know who the forwards of the league are. So just like, vote accordingly, and then like, yeah, PJ plays center, but he's actually a two guard or a small forward.
Zach LaVine got some sort of vote for being a forward somehow.
He played some forward this year.
Did he?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'd also like to air the complaint that somebody left Anthony Davis off their ballot, and two people left Kawhi.
Fired them.
Well, they haven't released the names yet. They just released the points voting, but Kawhi was left off 2 entire ballots. Which, if you hate load management that much, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, like find another job. Like, what happened to you that day? Who hurt you?
Yeah. It's just weird that like, obviously, and also the things that we should be, let's say the positive stuff. Congrats to LeBron on being named to the most All-NBA teams ever. Congrats to Luka for making first team All-NBA in his second season.
That's crazy.
That is awesome. That's fucking crazy.
That's an accomplishment, no doubt. Especially think about all of the good players in the league right now. Like, to make first team in any position is just huge. It's awesome.
Congrats to Chris Paul for having a bounce back campaign when everybody thought he was done.
That's a good one.
Who else made it? Congrats to Rudy Gobert for finally getting recognized. Like, the guy can barely make an all-star team.
Good reason.
Yeah. He's the best defensive center in the NBA.
Sure. He's fine.
Probably the best story for me was Gobert, because one, he never gets the all-star recognition, and two, his only recognition to this point was he was patient zero for the NBA's COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
So like to see him get his day, it's nice.
Mm-hmm. It seems like him and Mitchell patch things up too over the playoff, enough to be teammates. They may never be. They're not going to pool parties together, but
I don't think anyone's going to pool parties anytime soon.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Nobody be going to pool parties. All right, guys. Well, that was a good catch-up session. We just really haven't done this in a while.
Should we get out of here with picks for the Western and Eastern Conference Finals?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. So who you guys got?
Lakers Celtics.
All right. Boy.
And the Heat are already up 1 game as we record this.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. AB's going to kill me. I just don't. I don't know if Tatum's going to be the guy, man. Like, I know he's good.
Tatum slander. I may have given loose shit about the Red Sox shirt, but for some reason, I now really like this Celtics team. It's hard not to like Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker is so awesome.
Oh, dude, Kemba Walker is like my Damian Lillard of the East. I love Kemba Walker. However, again, this Heat defense is no joke. And as long as they can keep playing, if they stop playing defense, I'm like, yeah, no doubt. It's going to be Celtics Lakers.
The Bam block, by the way,
I don't want Celtics Lakers. Oh, dude, we definitely got to talk about that real quick.
That's one of the best defensive plays I've ever seen.
No doubt. I mean, did you guys watch it live?
Yes.
No.
Oh,
I did.
I scared everybody within like a 3-block radius. Honestly, I screamed like a little girl. It was awesome.
It was incredible. And I mean, even Tatum after it was just like, you got to tip your cap. He blocked the shot. Like, he had the tomahawk all the way back. He was bringing it forward. Bam sat down with Rachel Nichols today, and he said after it, 2 of my fingers went numb. Like, that was a powerful dunk that I blocked.
Yeah, I mean, his fingers were like all the way back, dude. Like, that's insane. That's how you get those basketball fingers, where your fingers are all like crooked and stuff. Mm-hmm. But hey, just real quick before we get out of here, that block was on your boy Tatum, so I think that's going to be my answer. It's going to be Heat Lakers because of that block.
So nobody has faith in the Nuggets.
I wish I did. I really do.
What percent chance do you guys give them in the series?
25.
I think that's fair.
I was going to say 20.
Yeah. I obviously there's always a chance. And I feel like if Murray and Jokic get hot, especially if some of the, like you mentioned Grant, like if those guys can hit threes like they have been, like I could see them blowing out the Lakers for one game, but I don't know if they can win a series.
I just think Anthony Davis is going to look at Jokic and go, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. In the way, like Jokic hasn't really seen somebody that's going to defend like he will. I mean,
and also, Dwight Howard has 6 fouls, and he's going to fucking use them.
Yeah, he's out there for that. Absolutely.
So it's going to be a tough series.
All right, so we got 2 guys that want the old boring Lakers, Celtics. Let's go back to the 80s, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. And then you got the new age guy that wants Heat and new blood in the finals. So we're going to...
Nuggets?
What's that?
You want Heat Nuggets?
No. Is that what I said? I meant Heat Lakers.
Oh, I was gonna say you said you want new blood. I'm like, wait, are you gonna go off the board? Okay.
No, I want new blood, but I'm not gonna get crazy. Like still LeBron.
Lou, we're gonna throw this back in Miles's face when during Game 1 of Celtics Lakers finals, they're doing the Kobe montage, and he's sending us the crying emojis because he's just crying his eyes out, and he's like, "This is so perfect. This is what Kobe wanted."
It's so true. Hey man, I'll flip flop all day long. I don't care.
Myles has no game, and I don't.
All right, boys. Well, it was good to see your guys' faces. Good talking with you guys. Make sure to follow Luis at LCM1986, Adams at Souvenir City. I'm at MPhelps11, and make sure to go to our website. You got all the older episodes on there. TalkinToros.com. That's with no G, and at Talkin Toros on Twitter. And we'll get you next time. Go Bulls. Wear a mask.